Hey, how's it going, YouTube? How y'all doing today? I took a good look at the numbers yesterday. So right now, well, I went to go pick up grain yesterday. When I went to go pick up grain, I just ran through the numbers one more time. Right now, I'm spending about $1,200 a month to raise these animals. And these animals, well, I would estimate. So I got 2 animals here that I'm raising for to process on my own. So I have 27 animals total, but I'm only taking 25 of them to market. So on those 25, I would estimate that on those 25, they're putting on about 2,000 pounds a month as a collective. And so right now, my cost of gains are hovering around that 60 cents a pound range or 65 cents a pound range, somewhere like that. I was taking a look at everything, and my front grass is doing real good. That sorghum Sudan grass that I got growing up front is doing good, real good. The grass in the back doing real good too. But well, I was taking a look at things, and I don't know if I'll be able to put 3 pounds. So these animals, they put on about 1.5 to 2 pounds a day on this grass. So about 1.75 pounds. And then when I give them 6 to 7 pounds of grain each a day, they put on about an extra pound. So they'll gain about 2.75 pounds a day is what what the numbers are looking like right now when I measure them. And so these animals are putting on about 2.75 pounds a day. And so yep. Well, I was taking a look at the feed schedules for these animals and what these animals are eating and how much they're putting on, and I don't know if I'll be able to put this much weight on them by just feeding them grass. So if I cut the grass up front and I fed it to them instead of giving them grain, I don't know if they'll put on 2.75 pounds a day. It's real hard to get these cattle. Okay, because the thing is, okay. And the reason it's easier for me to put weight on these cattle with grain is because grain, every mouthful of grain that these animals get, they get more calories. And so if they eat a mouthful of grass, let's say they get 10 calories, right? But if they eat a mouthful of grain, they may get 100. And so the calorie density of grain is much higher than grass. And so for me to feed enough grass for these animals to gain a substantial amount of weight, it's going to take a lot of volume of food. It's going to take a large volume of food for me to, and the volume of food that they need to consume will be limited by the amount of space that they have in their gut. And so if oh man, this is my first time ever seeing my little Jersey calf try well, he tried to mount a steer, but I was taking a look at him, and I may need to get him castrated here pretty soon. But these animals, okay, so the thing is, if I'm going to feed them just grass, the amount of grass that I need to feed them to get them to put on weight is going to be substantially more than the amount of grain that I need to feed them. And so these animals, they may get full. They will probably get full before they can eat enough grass to they'll give up eating before they have enough food in them to put on weight, that much weight via grass at this size. And so I was like, well, so yep, well, I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, you know what, I'll feed the grass to them if I have to. Like if the weather's not good and the weather's and I have to feed it to them, I'll feed it to them. But if I can bale it, I'd rather prefer to bale it. So my big plan right now, right, is that I'm gonna bale the grass if I can, and if I can bale it, I'm going to put it up on the internet for sale, and I'm just gonna put it up as a price. I'm gonna take a look at what I've harvested. I'm gonna weigh the bales. They're gonna be small square bales. I'm gonna weigh the bales, and then I'm going to and then I'm just gonna double it, double the. So I put about $375 into that front field for me to seed it, and for me to fertilize it, and for me to seed it. It cost me about $375. And so I'm gonna harvest the hay. If I can bale it, I'm gonna bale it. And when I harvest it, I'm going to I'm just going to say, okay, if I sell the bales for this much, it will double my money. And so if I however many bales I get, the plan is to make $750. And if I can make 700, or I'm gonna divide 750 by however many bales I get up there, and then I'm gonna put them on the internet for that much. And if they sell, they sell, and if they don't, I don't really care. I'll just hold on to them, right? But if the thing is that the weather may, you know, this sorghum Sudan grass up front is going to be ready to harvest in like a month, in about a month. And I don't know if the weather's going to be good enough to harvest hay in a month. In June, we usually get some pretty good rain in June. Usually when it starts getting hot, it's by the end of July towards it's about July, about middle of July is when things start getting real hot and dry. And so could I bale hay in July? More than likely. I would say that there's a 95% chance, 99% chance that I get a good window of opportunity to bale hay in July. But in June, it's going to be it's going to be I'll have to see. But my original I don't think that there's going to be a good window of opportunity to bale hay in June. But in July, probably. And so if the grass is ready to harvest in June, I can cut it back and then I can feed it to the animals, and in July it'll be ready to harvest again. And so and if I don't harvest it in June, the grass is going to grow real big, and then it's not going to be worth anything. The grass is not going to have any feed value to it. And so, well, yep, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. These animals, they got about 2 more months here. They got just over 2 months here. I went and I picked up their the fourth supply of grain. And so I got well, I feed them it's about I feed them about it's about 16 barrels of grain every month. And so I feed them about four barrels of grain. It's about like 7.5 days or so, about 8 days, or it's about 8 days. I feed them about 4 barrels of grain every 8 days, 9 days or so. I actually think it's about 8.5, not 7.5, 8.5 days. And so I need to feed them about 15 barrels of grain a month. And I went to go and I picked up the 16th barrel of grain yesterday. And so when I was picking up the grain, I was running the numbers. And then I was looking at how much these cattle are gaining. And right now the cost of gain is still pretty good. I'm at probably at about 65 cents a pound. And so, but, well, I mean, if I could put weight on these animals via grass, I'd rather put the weight on them via grass, because it's so much cheaper for me to grow grass than it is to go buy grain. But here's the thing about the hay is that I can sell the hay and I can make money on it, right? And so if I sell the hay and I make the money on it and then I use that money to buy grain, it ain't that big of a deal. Because I can use the money, because I mean, you know, because here's the thing is, if I sell the hay and I get top dollar for the hay, it don't really matter to me that if I have to pay top dollar for grain, because, well, I mean, I'm using my net profit to purchase the grain, right? And so, but I'll have to see. If I can sell hay, that'd be fantastic. But if I can't, I'll just hold on to it and I'll feed it to the animals when the weather's not good. And so, I mean, either way, it's gonna be fine. Well, but the big thing is that when the first cutting of hay is ready to be harvested, I don't think that the weather's gonna be good enough for me to bale it dry. And so I'll probably have to feed it to these animals as fresh feed. And if I feed it to them as fresh feed, well, I don't know if they're gonna put a whole lot of weight on via the grass, because the volume of grass that these animals need to eat, you know, like if I feed these animals 6 to 7 pounds of grain, they can put on a pound. But if I feed them the 6 to 7 pounds of fresh grass, it ain't gonna do jack squat. They're gonna have to eat like 60, 70 pounds. Because, well, maybe even more, maybe like 100 pounds. Because fresh grass, like 95% of fresh grass is water. And so, well, maybe I could dry it a little bit. Maybe I could, well, I don't know. I'll have to see. I planted the grass real thick. I planted it at about, I probably planted it at just about 70 pounds an acre. maybe a little bit more. And the thicker that I plant the grass, the thinner the stems come in. And so the big plan with the grass was that I would plant it thick, so that the grass, the stems would come in thin, so that it's easier to dry the grass, and it's also easier for the cattle to eat. But if I dry the grass a little bit, you know, I could probably get them to eat more of it. Because the thing about feeding just fresh grass is that fresh grass is about 90% water. And so for these animals to eat enough dry matter to put weight on, and they're not going to put weight on by eating a whole bunch of water. You see what I'm saying? Like, if these animals, if they're going to put on weight, they're going to need to eat dry matter. And so, you know, if 10% of the grass is dry matter, and they need 10 pounds of dry matter to put on one pound of gain from the hay, maybe even up to, I've read that it takes up to 12 pounds of dry matter to put on 1 pound of gain via hay. And so if they need to put on if they need to eat 12 pounds of dry matter, they're going to have to eat about 120 pounds of wet grass, because that grass is going to be about 90% water. And so you see, but that's the problem, is that you know, the amount of gain that, you know, if I feed them 120 pounds of wet grass, they'll get the same amount of gain from that 120 pounds of wet grass as they will from 6 to 7 pounds of dry grain. And so the 6 to 7 pounds of dry grain will take a whole lot less room in their stomach. They can eat a whole lot more grain than they can wet grass. And so I don't know if I'll be able to put 3 pounds a day on these animals by feeding them wet grass. But I'll have to see. So I mean, I'm just going to anticipate that I won't be able to. And so I'll either have to sell the grass, or I'll have to dry it a bit before I feed it to them. Or they're just not going to put on weight properly. And but if I can bale it, at this point of the year, I'd be okay selling the hay. I would be more than happy to sell the hay, because chances are here in about August or here later this year, I'll be able to cut it again. You know, this grass field up front, I'll probably be able to cut it about 3 times this year. And so I don't mind selling the first cutting. And if I can get a good dollar for that first cutting, I don't mind selling it. And I'm going to take the money. I'd sell it, and I'd take the money, and I would go and buy grain with it. But, well, I mean, yeah, we'll have to see. Because right now, these cattle, they're gaining pretty good, but my expenses are very high. Well, I mean, they're not very high. Like, I know that I've read that that feed yards and stuff, like the big businesses, the big cattle businesses, their cost to gain, if they hover around 90% or 90 cents a pound, that's considered good. I've read that 90 cents a pound is considered like the benchmark for, in terms of just decent cost to gains. And so when it cost me about 65 cents a pound, that ain't bad. That's actually pretty good. But I can well, the thing is if I'm going to feeding a whole bunch of wet grass is not going to be what puts the weight on these animals. And the wet grass also makes them have diarrhea. You see this right here? He's having a lot of diarrhea because wet grass makes the animals have diarrhea. And so, you know, I could these animals could end up having diarrhea and stuff too if I feed them a whole bunch of wet grass. But I mean, I planted the grass real thick out front. I planted it real dense, and so the stems are going to come in pretty thin. Maybe I could get I don't have a conditioner for the hay, but you know, maybe I could dry it for a day or so before I feed it to them if I can. If the weather says it's okay, if the weather looks like it's going to be good enough for me to dry it for one day, I'll dry it for a day before I feed it to them. And that'll drop the moisture from about 90 to probably about, well, depending on the humidity outside and the amount of sunlight outside and how dry it is outside and how hot it is outside, I could actually drop the moisture in the hay from about 90% probably down to about 60% in just one day, in just 24 hours, maybe even 50. And if I can get it to 50%, depending on how thin the stems are, depending on how hot it is outside, depending on how much wind there is, depending on how much relative humidity there is, I could drop the moisture in the grass pretty substantially, even over just 24 hours. And so I'll have to see. But if I'm going to feed these animals the grass up front to cut down on my cost of gains, I'm gonna need to dry it before I feed. Dry it just slightly before I feed it to them, because they got an unlimited supply of fresh grass back here already. They don't need any more fresh grass, and so they need that dry matter. But you know, but if I can, the most optimal thing I think for me to do would be for me to just dry it, bale it, sell it, and then take the money to buy grain. But that isn't up to me though, because if the weather's bad, I won't be able to bale it. And so, yep, I'll have to see what's gonna happen. But that's kind of just the general idea of where I'm headed. I guess that's the plan, right? That's the plan. That's what I'm looking to do. I'll have to see when I get there though. But I got a rough idea of what I'm looking to do. If I can, I'd rather bale the hay, and I'd rather sell the hay, take the profit from the hay to buy the grain, and then feed these animal grain. But if it's not possible for me to bale the hay, if it's looking like the weather's just going to be too bad, I can dry the hay for a day or two and then feed it to them to get most of the moisture out of the hay. And then I can feed these animals. It would be best for me to feed these animals a dry hay. A completely dry hay has a moisture content of around 15 to 20%. And so, you know, the closer I can get it to that 15 to 20%, the better it'll be. For in terms of, I'll have to see when I get there. But that's the I guess the general idea of what I'm looking to do. That's the plan for right now. And I took a look at the numbers yesterday before I went to go buy the grain, and I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing real good. I'll just have to see what I'm gonna do. But I got these animals for about another 2 months, and I need to keep them gaining weight. I need to keep them I need to keep putting weight on them so that they're ready for market in 2 months, and I can get some good money for them. And so, but yep, I got more than enough grass out here. They got an unlimited supply of grass out here. I just need to keep them gaining weight. But that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.